Hello, we're going to do exercise 1.1, and I'm going to film it. And it says, chemicals and safety. That's the name of activity 1.1. Matter includes both helpful and harmful solids, liquids, and gases. For example, oxygen is a gas that all animals must take in to survive. But nitrogen dioxide gas from car exhaust is poisonous. Among liquids, water is essential for human survival, but sulfuric acid can cause serious burns if it contacts the skin. We put salt crystals, sodium chloride, on our food, but crystals of sodium cyanide are lethal poison. How do we know whether or not a given substance is safe to use? How do we work safely with any chemical in the laboratory, at home, or at work? One source of information about hazardous substances is the warning symbols that are placed on containers of potentially dangerous materials. Tables 1 and 2 show these symbols. In this activity, we will learn about these warning symbols, and you will identify hazardous Table 1 and 2 show these symbols. In this activity, you will learn about these warning symbols, and you will identify hazards in your own laboratory. You will also learn how to deal with hazards and set some rules for working safely. I will show you table 1 and 2 now. This is table 1, hazardous household product symbols. The warning symbols on household products were developed to indicate exactly why and to what degree a product is dangerous. So do you see the top row? It says poisonous with a skull and crossbones. And then it has flammable, kind of like a little fire there, explosive, like a little explosion, and then corrosive, kind of a, not quite sure what it is, but it doesn't look good. And then on the far left, you have an octagon, red, danger, a little lighter, orange, warning, and then the yellow below, caution. And then if you combine the two rows, the top row and the left row, you get danger poisonous, danger flammable, danger explosive, danger corrosive, warning poisonous, warning flammable, warning explosive, warning corrosive, caution poisonous, caution flammable, caution explosive, and caution corrosive. So those are the major symbols that you should be able to know when identifying dangerous materials in a laboratory. And then we have table 2, WHMIS symbols, the Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System, WHMIS symbols were developed to standardize the labeling of dangerous material used in all workplaces, including schools. Pay careful attention to any warning symbols on the products or materials that you handle. So we have compressed gas, flammable and combustible material, oxidizing material, corrosive material, dangerously reactive material, biohazardous infectious material, poisonous and infectious material causing immediate and serious toxic effects, poisonous and infectious material causing other toxic effects. Trust me when I tell you, there will be none of those chemicals in your laboratory, but they do exist. And if you are employed where a workspace has those chemical symbols, a great deal of respect should be shown to the container. Table 3, Safety and Science, Precautions and Devices. Okay, we have the hazard is the first column, and then some precautions, safety device, location of device, device information. So the first one is fire. So precautions, tie back loose clothing and long hair, avoid contact with the flame or the hot part of the burner, avoid sudden movements. All right, so the device is going to be the fire extinguisher, fire blanket, fire alarm switch. You need to find the location of the device and some device information, like how to use it. And then splashes. You want to wear safety goggles. You want to wear an apron, avoid sudden movements again. Some safety devices, safety goggles, aprons, eye wash stations. Where are those devices and some additional information? Broken glass. Keep broken glass. Keep glass containers away from the edge of counters. Avoid sudden movements. So some safety devices, some beaker clamps, disposal container for broken glass that you will not touch. I will deal with that. And know where the location of the devices are with additional information. Part 2, Setting Safety Rules. In groups or as a class, record answers to the following questions. Must safety goggles be worn for all activities? Yes, no explanation. Goggles must be worn for all activities, period, end of conversation. Always. Are normal glasses ever an acceptable substitute for safety goggles? No. Wear safety goggles at all times. Should you inform your teacher if you receive a cut during an activity? Yes, absolutely. Always. If there's any injuries, you must report it to the teacher immediately. What should you do if you have an allergy, medical condition, or physical problem? Talk to the teacher. Make sure the teacher knows. Have the parent call the teacher. Write a note. Document, document, document. Always tell the teacher if there's a problem medically. Always. A physical problem, always. That includes allergies. That includes contact lenses. Is it acceptable to bring food or drink into the science classroom? No, 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 not ever, ever, ever. There are chemicals being used. You do not want to combine food and chemicals, not a good mix. When can you touch, taste, or smell chemicals in a science activity? Never, 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 never. Any questions? Never touch, taste, or smell any chemicals in a science activity. What should you do if you accidentally touch chemicals during normal activity? Wash your hands, then tell the teacher. Wash your hands, soap and water, wash your hands, then tell the teacher. What procedure should you follow if chemicals accidentally splash into your eye? Eye wash, eye wash, eye wash. Always use the eye wash and then tell your teacher. Have somebody tell the teacher, but always go to the eye wash first. Don't wait. How should you dispose of chemicals, broken glass, or sharp scalpels? First of all, you'll never use a sharp scalpel in here. If you are, you shouldn't be. Put it down. Broken glass, never touch it. Let the teacher do that. You dispose of chemicals according to the pre-lab instructions. It may change each lab. Make sure that you understand where to put them before you even touch a chemical. You never put chemicals back into the original container. What should you do if any of your equipment is damaged or defective? Before you use any equipment, you check to see if it's working properly, if it's damaged or defective, and if it is, you tell the teacher immediately. Understanding concepts. Why is it important to standardize safety symbols so that everybody understands the same bottle and the same dangers equally well? Briefly describe the procedure to follow if exposed skin comes in contact with any chemical substance. If there's harm for you if you touch a chemical, you're not going to be using it anyway in a classroom. But any chemical, before you use it, you should always know the dangers and what to do. The best thing to do is any salts. Salts are water soluble. You wash your hands, wash your arm, however you expose them, and then tell the teacher. Do you think it is always safe to pour waste chemicals and solutions down the sink with lots of water? Explain. No, you only dispose of chemicals according to the instructions for those chemicals that are given in the pre-lab instructions. Listen carefully to all procedures. Think about safety precautions that are taken in different industries. Why do people wear face masks when spraying a car? They wear face masks while spraying a car because they want to keep the gases out of their respiratory system. B, why do hairdressers wear gloves when using chemicals to straighten hair? Because the chemicals will seep through the skin. They will be absorbed through the skin tissue. C, why do firefighters wear breathing apparatus when entering a burning building? Because they need oxygen. They need to keep the smoke out of their lungs, and they need to take in oxygen. Oxygen mixed with air, certainly not pure oxygen, but a mixture at least. Number 5, investigate the containers of products in your home for hazardous product symbols. Make a table to summarize your findings with headings: brand name of product, type of container, hazard symbol. B, do you see any similarities in the types of containers that are used for hazardous material? Explain. C, do you see any similarities in the types of hazards that seem to be associated with particular groups of products? So let's look at some additional things that might be a repetition of what we've learned during this lesson. Some general rules. You want to act in a mature manner in any kind of laboratory. You want to walk slowly, walk carefully, walk quietly. You want to go about your business and do what has to be done relative to the experiment you're doing and nothing else. You want to listen to your teacher. The teacher will let you know if something is safe or unsafe. You should know these symbols, but the best thing to do is to listen to the pre-lab instructions of the teacher relative to what safety protocols to take during the experiment. You should never, ever work alone in a laboratory. If something happens to you, you want to be able to send for help. Never work without an instructor in the classroom. That's the best thing, and that is a requirement. You may not work without an instructor, teacher in the room, ever. You cannot touch any equipment when you first walk into a laboratory. You don't know what the equipment is for, who put it there, is it yours? There's no reason to touch anything unless it has been identified as yours by the teacher or by past practice. You've put the material out for yourself or you're continuing an experiment from the week before. You can't eat or drink in a laboratory. There are chemicals in the laboratory, and you've got to make sure that you don't get poisoned. Very simple. You want to only perform experiments that are authorized to perform by your teacher, specifically on the day that the experiment is going to be done. There's no curiosity experiments. You don't come in and play in a laboratory, ever. You want to make sure that you've done all of your reading prior to the lab and you're ready to do the work that you've been assigned for the lab. No joking around, no practical joking, no running around. Things are very dangerous in a laboratory. People can get hurt. You want to make sure you clean up after yourself. We're not your parents, you don't have a maid. You want to clean your workspace. And if something's in the sink, clean it. Take the initiative. All books must be kept outside the classroom. All bags, books, everything gone outside the classroom. Never inside the classroom. You want to always know the location of all safety equipment. Make sure that the room is well ventilated. If you're having a problem breathing, you make sure you tell a teacher. You want to proceed with caution at all times. If something's unsafe that you observe, make sure you tell a teacher. Dispose of chemicals properly. Make sure you ask a teacher how to dispose of the property. There's no guessing. Labels and equipment instructions. You have to read them carefully. You can't just guess what a chemical is for. Students are never permitted in the science storeroom, ever. That is the responsibility of the instructor or the lab tech, never a student. Know what to do during a fire drill. Every lab class will have a fire drill of its own, as well as with the school, and you need to know what to do. When using any sharp knife, use it properly. You always cut away from the body, never towards the body. Make sure that if a sharp instrument is falling, you don't stand, don't keep your feet under it. You have to move back. If you have a medical condition, make sure you check with a physician before starting any lab work. Your clothing, wear an apron at all times, a chemical-resistant apron. Contact lenses, the teacher has to know if you wear contact lenses. You must wear well-ventilated goggles at all times. The instructor has to know what students have goggles. The goggles have to be splash-proof, well ventilated with a valve, one-way valve. You have to dress accordingly. No jewelry, no baggy sleeves. Long hair has to be tied back. You can't have hair all over the place, it'll catch on fire, and then you'll be done. Report all your accidents. If your lab partner is hurt, make sure the teacher knows. Yell out something if you have to. It's a small space, it shouldn't be a problem. Use the eye wash if you need to, if there's a splash in your face. We don't use mercury thermometers, so that's not a problem. All chemicals in the laboratory are considered dangerous. They are never considered safe. You never return chemicals to the original container. You always dispose of them according to the teacher's instructions. Never use your mouth to suck up chemicals in a pipette or straw. Make sure that acids are handled with extreme caution. Flammable hazardous liquids, make sure they're handled carefully. You don't use them near an open flame. You never remove chemicals from the laboratory, ever. There are horror stories about students being curious and removing chemicals from a lab and being hurt as a result of that. Not a good idea. You don't want to carry large quantities of glassware about the classroom. Carry only what you can handle. You never handle broken glass. I will do that. You're not going to worry about inserting glassware into rubber stoppers. I'll do that for you. But just make sure that there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Never insert anything into a rubber stopper unless you're directed to do so and you've been trained to do that. When you're pulling a plug out, make sure you pull it from the plug. Your hands are dry. You're pulling it from the plug. Always examine glassware before you use it. For frayed cords, if you don't understand something, ask for help. You never immerse hot glassware under water. When you're heating anything, you want to make sure that you do it slowly and carefully. You never leave a burner unattended, a hot plate or a burner. You never leave it on and walk away, ever. Make sure you know the proper method for heating, always. Heated metals, heated glass, they don't always mix. Be very careful. You don't want to look into a container being heated directly. Not a good idea. It could splash, could explode, splash in your face. You don't want to touch a hot object, even if you're not sure it's hot. Ask before you touch any object. I'm not real worried about bending glass. We don't do that in here. You wear contact lenses? Are you colorblind? Do you have any allergies? These are some things that you need to know. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good day and goodbye. Just a note. Not all of these symbols are universal. Most of them are. These are specific to Canada. But it is very important that you understand symbols where you are locally. A teacher is going to give safety instructions before every lab. It's not just once in the beginning of the year. Safety instructions are gone over for every single lab done in a laboratory. But no experiment is going to be performed with unsafe chemicals, unsafe procedures, unsafe equipment. However, it is still important for the student to understand that they must do precisely what they are supposed to do and nothing else. The lab, the experiment, and act accordingly. Do the experiment and do it carefully, not only for yourself, but for those around you. And to understand what the safety requirements are for every experiment done, every one, and to be cautious when doing any experiment.